Alrighty, as Jay likes to say. Welcome to Magus Talk. Today we have our friend Jay once again to reveal the depths of his subconscious and what depths they are. It's kind of explicit. I've had to bleep some things out, but you're going to get the gist of it. So these are essentially what Jay calls vampire dreams. And we're not going to get into specific esoteric methods or things like that, except toward the end with my very lengthy commentary. His dream is actually pretty short, but my commentary is pretty long. And it's important because this has been a chronic situation for Jay, and it kind of outlines how deep things can go. So without further ado, thanks for taking the time to be here. Take it away, Jay.
All righty then. I've had a couple of dreams, some vampire dreams. There was the common vampire that always shows up in these dreams. But there was another, I don't even want to call her a vampire. She's somebody I used to date, and I consider her a really good friend. So I'm like, what the hell is this about? But anyway, let me just tell you what happened. The first dream with the vampire, who, the main one that was at the bar, that was at the show that we had in Colorado, which, all right, you know, you're going to have to go listen to old sound bites, sorry. So anyway, I have absolutely no sexual interest with this vampire at all. And I don't like to give these people's gender. I don't like to give anything. So let's just go ahead and say that and a lot, my dreams do get like this too. It is, everybody's like, you know, it's mixing genders attached to someone's chin, which was in one of the dreams, but with this particular vampire, who I am not sexually attracted to at all, it's just like super disgustingly gross to think in that zone. No. Anyway, in the dream, I'm done now. I'm not describing that dream anymore. I don't even want to think about it. However, I injured my hand, and in a very detrimental way. And it was a stress injury, and it's basically due to bad technique playing the guitar. I know how to play the guitar correctly with correct biomechanic technique. I know this, but I have quit, started back up so many times. I developed a bad habit without thinking about it. And again, I just simply wasn't thinking. And then I came in, online, I started talking to this vampire who has a tremendous amount of interest in our band, as like a, I don't want to say groupie because I think that's a negative context, but just she's a fan, or he's a fan, whatever. And so at any rate, this person does a little bit of research online, and then bang, 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 says, Jay, why don't you just play it this way? Why are you playing it that way? And I'm like, oh my God, why am I playing it that way? Now, this was a big problem. I can't really play the guitar right now unless I'm very, very careful. So I'm in the process of correcting old bad habits that I developed, and I am getting better, but it's an injury, a serious, or it could develop into a serious injury, and I was worried that we couldn't even play this summer, and it's like December right now. So, so anyways, this is a big deal. And then boom, problem solved. One phone call after this dream. Then I get another dream that's probably the two dreams are right together, and the phone calls happen later, of this girl that I used to date, but she had a chin, and here I am. That sorry, I didn't mean to get too graphic, but I think I already. It's not so gross with her. Or him. No, wait, she's a her, because she's a girl I used to date. God, this incognito crap is just so difficult to keep track of. Anyway, after the dream, she like calls me up, and so the two dreams are kind of together, and then she calls me up and it's like, hey, I was just thinking about you. And it was a good conversation, but I'm just like, I understand the phallic representation of the dream, because these are chords. If anybody is familiar with like just think of an electrical cord going into somebody. That's kind of, you guys, I'm sure, who are listening to this probably are aware of that, where it's kind of how people make a connection with each other. They stick, quote unquote, their hooks into somebody, or they cord into somebody, or it's like a cord, an electrical cord, and there's an exchange of energy. And, I would like that, in some way functional, as opposed to the dysfunctional representation of the dreams, which I am not happy with at all. I'm not happy with either of them. The one with the girl is a slightly more acceptable, but no. So, again, this shows a tremendous dependency on that vampire element in my life. I would like the one with the girl I used to date I would like some clarification, Ari, because I don't feel like something is bad happening, but then again, maybe this just kind of rolled over into, dude, just be careful with whatever you do. And so that's that for those dreams. Now, I would like to say, very important to say, that these dreams happened before Ari posted the last podcast of his dreams about me. The ones that took him a while to ponder. Like he had to think about it for, at least 2 or 3 days before he gave an answer. Those dreams were confusing to me. Well, I got these dreams before he delivered his take on my old dreams, which is kind of like, hey, way to go, Jay. Kind of patting myself on the back, figuring it out that these are dreams about vampires. I'd like to give myself credit where credit, wherever I can take it, really. But, it just reconfirms what Ari came up with.
Okay, it's time to put the dream interpretation hat on and see what we're in for. The basic idea here is the vampirism idea. And Jay described it pretty well by saying chords, and we're not talking guitar chords or even electrical ones. Just consider a pipe connecting you to another, or a tentacle. People have kind of psychic tentacles or psychic, their energy field extends. And even just thinking about it, your mind, when you're a victim of this, will interpret it that way. Now, I understand the erotic nature of the dreams, and it is allegorical. Okay, so it isn't about, a literal erotic situation, as Jay said. The important thing is that this is a dynamic that is not based on what you might call true circulation. Because of the perverse and crazy nature of the situation and the descriptions, Jay's subconscious was telling him, well, this is not what you would normally, not only it's not what you would normally do, you wouldn't normally associate anything erotic with this kind of thing. Because the descriptions I bleeped out were kind of freak show. And we're not even gonna, honor the presentation. The point is that Vampirism at this level is bleeding your bioenergy. It's bleeding you at an organic level, and thus it can have physical effects. You can get sick, for example. You can get depressed. There's a lot of things. It affects your biochemistry. And you might say that the energy it takes to move you and motivate you and even manifest positive creative situations in your life is gone. And it's not just gone, it's replaced with the vampire's own rejection of themselves, their own inner hatred, their own disappointment in themselves, their guilt. And it so happens that people do this all the time. A lot of them take it for granted. It's how they grew up. That's how they survived. It's their disposition. There are many reasons, and it doesn't matter. We're not here to demonize the ones who do it unless they are like occultists who kind of plan it. And then it's worse because then you have conscious volition involved. In Jay's situation, these effects are unconscious. And it doesn't matter if it's your best friend or some acquaintance or a business person you know, or just somebody off the street that happens to rub shoulders with you and has this ability. It is kind of offensive. It is a violation, but it's not something we normally recognize. And it's not somebody you can actually um, get justice for, shall we say. I mean, I'm not even going to invoke, oh, karma's going to get such a person, because to them, they're feeding. To their subconscious, they're actually feeding. For example, the individual who helped Jay with his hand problem. Uh, well, Jay got a lot from that. So then this person subconsciously figured because maybe this person does it with everybody. Well, I did you a favor. I'm a good person. I help a lot of people around me. But there's going to be payback. And you might say the person has a right to do it. Of course, who would agree to such a thing? But it doesn't matter. It's basically the person will offer something because Jay needs it and because the atmosphere is kind of priming Jay's subconscious to be food. And so those people who've known him in the past, who are alerted to him, who may have their hooks in him anyways, and this isn't some nefarious situation either. You can have loved ones doing this. You can have people you trust. You can have people you get along with doing this. But it's something done from the subconscious, unless it's deliberate. And I've known a lot of people who are deliberate. I mean, you even go on occult forums and groups, and there's a lot of people who say, yeah, I do this. I vampire. I do it consciously. I visualize it. It amplifies, and I don't care what happens because I'm just feeding. Well, can't you get your energy in other ways? No, I can't. This is the only way. And it is kind of, you might say, well, if you get it in other ways, you got to process it, you got to digest it, and it's much easier to just cannibalize it. The problem with cannibalizing energy like that is it's not good for you. It really isn't. It's like cannibalizing people. It's like eating human flesh. When you eat human flesh, you get prions, these protein derivatives that are toxic to the brain. And in the same way, cannibalizing other people's energy fields kind of corrupts the soul in a sense, corrupts your heart. It's not really, again, I've known people, or I've actually read bloggers and stuff like that, who went pure carnivore. And I'm talking raw meat, raw carnivore. This doesn't happen when you cook the meat even a little bit, or even if you have a little bit of something else besides the meat. But if it's just complete carnivore, and nothing else, and the meat you eat is raw. There's some people who do that. It's not so strange. Um, the symptoms are your emotions. You become more confident. You become a little more aggressive, but not violently so. But the problem is your creativity and sensitivity goes out the window. Your emotions become more too grounded, down to earth, square, the basics. Your rational thinking is fine. Your mind works fine, even better than before. And you might even be more content. But if you're a creative person, the ideas, the creative passion isn't there. That's apparently something that's related to uh, a non-carnivore dynamic, but I'm talking pure raw carnivore. So Jay is a victim of this because he has a lot of energy, he has shamanic potential, but he hasn't cultivated it yet. So when you have potential and you haven't cultivated it, you're open season because most people, whether they have potential or not, are not interested in cultivating it. And some of those people have a reason not to be interested because their lives are going great just by skimming off the top of everybody else. Now, there's a lot of people who do just that. They skim off the top. They don't take a lot of energy from everybody. Most of us exchange energy all the time, anyways. And there are sources like, if you eat bad foods, industrialized food products, that drains your energy and it goes somewhere. And it isn't just a person vampiring. You can have society vampiring you. You can have the media vampiring you. It depends what kind of thoughts stick in your head, how you're manipulated, your moods, anything that wants to generate an emotional state. Somebody who can do this can skim off the top or even at a deep level. Psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists, they all have vampiric tendencies because they're dependent on other people's energies. They can't generate their own, which means they don't have aspirations for real. They really don't. And they really aren't connected to life in a way that allows them to circulate both ways, shall we say. They may be drawing on life, or maybe they think life owes them. There's many things I can say here, and a lot of them would be stereotypical or maybe prejudicial because I really don't like vampirism. But because it is a violation. And we do this all the time on some level, but when it hits the point where you're seeing it in your dreams in such a graphic manner, there might be a price to pay. I remember when Jay was with this person when he was dating her, he had a number of incidences like back problems and feet problems and bugs in his bed, just a bunch of stuff and correlated with this person somehow. So, where you normally keep your life in order, the vampire will take that and replace it with something that they don't like about themselves or their world or something. And sometimes it's just a matter of course. And for many, it's normal. So let's just leave it at that. The point is that Jay's very sensitive to this. It's a main karmic theme of his life. And the reason he's into occultism, one of the main reasons, is to deal with it. And I'm not going to apologize for this, but I've been, you know, dealing with my own, not my own stuff, but basically the material itself that we're working on, or I'm working on, and they're applying, Jay and Tara. Um, and new things are coming about, new things need to be tested, and deeper insights into all of this. And I'm going to share some of that with you, but not in this podcast. Right now, we're expressing the fact that the vampiric issue, the issue of parasitic draining, isn't just being drained, it's being dumped on. So you're being dumped on, you're both a toilet and a plate. Don't crap where you eat, they say. Well, vampires do just that, and you are the end product, the toilet. And it isn't so graphic as I make it sound. It's almost normalized. It's probably a genetic, it might be behavioral, it might be a little of both. But I know people who don't do this, and all of them that I know have their own aspirations, their own sense of autonomous individuality. It's not about dependency or codependency. It's about a sort of idealistic sense of self, aspirations like either creative passion or some kind of passion in life that keeps them going, or they're just independent in the sense of in the spiritual and emotional sense, or they're uh, they can step out of society, they can step into society, they can be artistic or creative in other ways, they can be social or not. But usually the other people, the parasites, are apprehensive about life in some way. There are deep held insecurities. I mean, everybody might have insecurities, but these insecurities are addressed in the sense of taking somebody else's patterns that are inspiring instead of being inspiring, let's say, from above or even from below, earth energies, or from the environment as a whole in a natural way, because we interact with energies all the time. The vampire is a cannibal. They're cut off from the world and cut off from either the earth or the sky or both, and somehow they have to survive on whatever's available, and what's available is other people. The problem is that when other people get vampired, they become, to an excess, they become sacrifices. And if this keeps going, the individual doing it can become corrupt because it becomes a lifestyle and they don't even realize it until they do, somehow. Other people are like psychopaths. They may be born that way, they may be created that way, but at some point they become conscious of it. So this is a very, very important, deep issue. And I'm not going to say much more about it. I'm going to see what the next stream is about. So, as far as the second person is concerned, not the yucky one, the main one, because I would think that the trauma on the hand with the guitar was caused by the first vampire. Let's call the person Daniela, Daniel. If we don't want to specify genders, but this individual, this or this individual essentially takes more and more, or as much as they can get, or as much until they can actually apply it and it works for them. So if you have charisma and you're out, um, being sociable and everybody loves you, and then a vampire comes by, that charisma will be replaced by the insecurity of the vampire without you even realizing it, uh, except that your mood will change or your luck will change. Maybe your mood stays the same, but your luck will change because the energy falters somewhere. And your health can change as well. So you can have an accident, you can have a mood swing, your luck can go bad because the natural energy of an autonomous person, and I'm not saying autonomous people always have good luck. You can have good luck in some things, you can have a kind heart and be great with yourself, but you might be poor as hell. You might not have bad luck with money, but maybe then it's because you're being vampired or some other reason. We don't want to scapegoat this, but in this case, it is what it is because the dream imagery is very clear. The phallic symbolism is purely a a feeding mechanism, and that's the funny thing because the phallic symbolism here isn't it. It isn't. It's depositing something, okay? So it's not really a symbolism of drawing out energy. That's not the problem. Because usually an autonomous person who's healthy, who's into Tai Chi and stuff like that, like Jay, can replenish their energy. If it was just taking energy, it's like, yeah, well, okay, that's what healers do. See, healers will give their life force to the one being healed. They have to be very careful, however, not to draw in the illness into themselves. There's healers who went seriously ill, and some even got chronic diseases or accidents, et cetera, because they were not careful that way. There's simple rituals many healers do, hands-on healer types. You don't just do it and then go and have a meal or go about your day. It's a process. People who do tarot readings or some kind of other psychic reading, they may get sick just from the exposure of opening up to another person's fate uh, or what's going on in their lives, et cetera, and that will give a drainage effect, a backwash, where the negativity of the individual will inundate the person doing the reading who's sensitive to that kind of thing. And because they're looking into the very fabric of the person's fate or destiny, you might say. So here, it isn't an issue of Jay being drained. It's an issue of Jay being inseminated. Okay, let's put it that way. So something, and it's an oral insemination from what I gather in both dreams. And that kind of thing means you're forced to swallow something that you don't want. And this gives satisfaction and relief to the other individual. Now, the phallic situation, I'm not going to get into details, but when it's a regular phallic situation, then you're being dumped on pretty heavily. If it's something like a phallus on another on the forehead or something like that, then the energy is mental. You're being dumped on with somebody's doubts or insecurities or something in their head. If the phallus is coming, or a cord or a tentacle is coming out of the chest, it might be a heart situation, more emotional. But if it's down in the nether regions, you're talking about deep biological energies where somebody is vampiring or depositing stuff they might think about their well-being, their health, their deep subconscious. So I've had dream attack. That's an attack. Okay, that's a dream attack. That's a violation. You're being raped in the dream, even if the dream makes it seem like you're a willing participant, you're being raped because, there's subconscious guilt and all kinds of things. Somebody's manifesting you in the situation. Sometimes they just, the subconscious will project it because if somebody says, well, it's not like I want to engage in certain acts and stuff, in oral acts. I'm talking about the vampire. It's that they consider it, oh, I need relief from this. And it'll be so great if everything can be turned around and I can be great again and do this. Oh, if only somebody could just take it from me, and that'll just make me feel really good. So, of course, the receiver is going to interpret it in that kind of sexual imagery because the passion is almost sexual. I mean, you've heard about like serial killers getting erections when they've, killed somebody or, perverse stuff like that. This is along those lines. Only in reverse, it's not a sexual situation, it's a situation of relieving yourself in a way that isn't just dumping waste products. This is infecting somebody with your own pattern completely, where you it's almost like you don't just want to release a burden, you want to uh rape somebody and have a permanent anchor or renew the anchor. So I believe that Jay is getting deeper into with the gin work and all of that we're doing and everything else. So what's been tolerated so far is now coming to the surface, and he's well aware of it. So the imagery is becoming more stark. It's like the powers that be that Jay is cultivating are saying, "Hey, buddy, you know what's going on here, don't you? It's been going on for a long time. You just refuse to see it that way because it was not pleasant. Well, right now, you're not going to tolerate it anymore. You don't want to tolerate it. And the only way that you're going to wake up to what it really is to see it for yourself. So there's no more guilt trips, excuses, and all of that. It's just, well, if I have all these subconscious guilt trips, well, once it's framed in this way, are you feeling really guilty? Do you really want this to continue this way? Now, the result, the outcome of this is what options do you have? Well, you don't need to counterattack. You don't need to do the opposite. There's no tit for tat here. All you need to do is cut the connection. And I personally use mantras in a more direct manner. So you can use the power of the word here. You don't need Sanskrit mantras. You can just use plain English, make an affirmation, and use it as a prayer. So, Jay, I'm going to keep the recording. Let's see how much I do have to, how much time I have left. But my advice is to continue the gin work because it's helping you reveal these things and make an affirmation to stop it. Just say enough. I've had enough. It's time to end this. This stops now, and I'm grateful that it has stopped. Express gratitude in some way to yourself, to the universe, that it has stopped. You are now immune to this kind of to any kind of vampirism. You're immune to it. And it's going to start persisting. So you may have a kind of battle on your hands. And maybe jinn summoning might help, or angel summoning, because we do both. See, for those of you who think jinn are evil, well, we're summoning archangels and angels, and we're putting them together with the jinn, and it's a kind of real state of consciousness. Because my approach is that the jinn are infected uh, by the ambient field, by the environment. So it's not that they're inherently evil. Not these kinds of beings. These kinds of beings are closer to animals. Angels to jinn are more like humans to animals. So yeah, jinn are sentient, they're conscious, and all of this. But the angel is on a much higher and more rarefied level. So if the angel goes bad, you got an evil spirit on your hands that can possess a jinn. It can possess nature. It doesn't just possess material things. It doesn't just possess people, or get locked in animals or plants even. It possesses even spiritual vibrations that are of a lower density. So jinn are of a lower density. You can have nature spirits that are completely demonic. It's not because they were created that way or fell because of some original sin. It's because something is infecting them. So when jinn in the Lesser Key of Solomon, they say, well, this spirit used to be one of the angels of the virtues, or the cherubs or potentates, um, and it's partly true. It's infected with that spirit, and so has taken on the characteristics of that spirit. So you need to exorcise that spirit, but the jinn doesn't lose the characteristic. It gets replaced. Nature abhors a vacuum. So if there's an exorcism, for example, and some evil demon gets banished, if it's a true exorcism, it will be replaced with a positive angelic influence the demon negates. So it might be the same former demon recycled back through creation, since there's no time, and basically redeemed. So you can have some. So at the end of the day, if you recover from something like an exorcism, your life should be getting much better. Otherwise, you haven't really recovered. Or the banishing is a specific ritual, like the Christian ritual, that doesn't include the invitation for the replacement, because it's not necessarily an automatic process. Somebody, for example, who overcomes this vampirism and is getting infected will realize that they're opening up to other things that are more positive, other energies, and the vampire cannot come in because of those other energies. Or they are engaged in affirmations, so the other energies don't have to be entities, of course. They can be their own renewed thoughts and infused with an inspirational spirit. Spirit isn't just an identity, it's not a being. Our spirit is an extension of us. It just goes much higher, it's more idealized, unless it is corrupt. Sometimes there are fragments of spirits that are partly corrupt. When you get into jinn alchemy, you end up diving into this stuff. You can't avoid it. First of all, the jinn are demonized, so you got to address that issue. Second of all, you're dealing with angels and archangels in relation to these natural forces that have a certain level of corruption at the onset, and you got to deal with that. So you either go for the traditional ritual and start cursing the jinn or the spirit, and start assuming that it's damned, it'll never recover, and all of this, and then you'll just be engaging in the self-fulfilling prophecy. Or you can actually take the higher force, you can take the angelic presence and bring it in proximity with the jinn, but you're doing this within yourself. You see, the battle is within us. We can't like draw a magic circle and have everything be on the outside and deal with it there. That's too easy. And magic circles, if you really look at the thing, you're bringing the jinn in. You're bringing the spirits in. You may have another circle inside of it that's your safe space, because the magic circle represents your magical universe. It represents your world as you are formulating it in the unseen through congress with all of these entities, forces, or what have you. Your sensitivity essentially isn't bounded by the circle, it's defined by the circle. Because the circle is any space. It can be any however big it can be, because it doesn't coincide with the world. It's separate from the outer world. You're just trying to keep the outer world out. That's the boundary. but you're actually engaging with another part of the world. It's not just your inner world, your subjective being, it's something you're engaging with that is part of the world. It's the unseen aspect of the world, what the ancients called Hades, the ancient Greeks called Hades. Or in the biblical sense, in the book of Revelations, it's uh, hell, and the Norse called it Hela. Hela was the goddess of hell, the ice realm of the dead. Or you can call it like the Hebrews, like the Jews, Gehenna or Sheol or whatever. It's basically the unseen, but in some cases, some parts of the unseen are dumping grounds for fragmentation that people haven't integrated. And this may be fragmentation on all levels. Human beings are such that they are collecting the terrestrial negativity and processing it because animals can't do it, plants can't do it. Geology can do it to a certain degree over millions of years. But unless human beings are doing what they're doing, and if human beings disappear, you're going to have the old cycles of mass extinctions come back because the negativity builds up through the dog eat dog law of the jungle, literal law of the jungle of nature, which is a wonderful thing and all of that, but it's compromised. And either human beings can process the negativity at a rate fast enough that nature is paradisial, or do change everything. But I believe human beings can digest this kind of thing because we're not just rejecting the negativity, we're seeking to transmute it, to digest it, to change it. Because all negativity, energy is just energy. It's the pattern on it that messes it up. So it's not the energy that's at fault. Energy isn't bad. It's attractive, it's repulsive, it's static, it's flowing this way or that. It has many patterns, but it can be distorted when there's hatred involved or pain or suffering, things like that. Or it can be distorted off the bat because the consciousness itself is insane from its inception or became insane because it was following a certain path that led it to insanity. That gets a little too esoteric for these podcasts, for now at least. So the lecture here was in order to explain that this situation isn't an escalation of the stuff that's been going on before. It's exactly the same thing that's been going on before, only the revelation of it is far more acute. And I don't believe this is just something because of the jinn work. I think that it's happening. I think the atmosphere of the planet, the psychic atmosphere, is kind of shifting because there's so much deception right now. And the human psyche is inundated with hyper reality or ultra reality, meta reality, all of these things, information overload, waste information, artificial information. So it needs to cope. And thus, it will set up filters, natural filters. And it will be able to start digesting information and it will cultivate discernment. That's how evolution works. You got a stimulus, only evolution in the psychic sense is far more rapid than evolution in the physical sense. It's just also that there are synchronicities here. Astrologers will note that planetary positions and cycles, they influence this kind of thing too at collective levels when the astrological aspects are collective level aspects, long-term ones, or the astronomical bodies are very out there. Their orbit is very long, their orbital time. But when you do engage in any esoteric work, even meditation, it'll sensitize you to certain things. So if there's issues in your life, they're going to come up. So I hope this helps, Jay. Solutions here are on the way. We're doing the project process that provides solutions to this kind of thing. In fact, your issues have helped me design it to be that way. Well, on that note, our time has run out. And we will continue with the dream analysis next week because Jay has complementary dreams to this. And we're going to put two and two together. We're going to combine the meanings of his clearly vampire draining, dumping, inseminating dreams and the ones that are following, which don't seem to be so explicit. And then we may be turning over a new chapter because I've sent Jay and Tara some installments of clarifications and the process of this work. And I may talk a little bit about that next time as well to give you guys context. Right now, this is a focus on Jay's issue and the situation that the inner work that he's doing is bringing to the surface through events, not just realizing something mentally or even emotionally, but through the events themselves. You read the way your life unfolds as a revelation. It's very important. On that note, we'll see you next time. Same Magus time, same Magus station. Magus out.